The presenting sponsor of OnEducation is Participate. Lately, teachers from all over have been working together to find new approaches to provide quality remote education. Participate's sister company, Participate Learning, presents United We Teach, a global gathering place for educators to share distance learning resources as we navigate these strange times. For these resources and more, visit participate.com/oneducation.
Dad, don't you dare take the switch to China or I'll kill you. Welcome to OnEducation, part of the On Podcast Media Network. My name is Mike Washburn.
And I'm Glen Irvin. Friends, we have an awesome pod for you today. We will discuss the difficulty in teaching in a hybrid system, the most ridiculous educational buzzwords of 2020, congratulate the top 30 K-12 IT influencers, and our guest this week is educator and author Becky Keene.
The Becky Keene.
Yes.
So, which generation of gaming did you start in? I love this tweet. Yeah.
Yes.
What I actually love more about this tweet, and we'll share the tweet in the show notes, is that the original tweet was like clearly written by like a millennial.
Yes, totally. They were like, let's go old school.
It started like way too like late in like we're in our 40s.
Yes.
And it's like, what? Where's like,
our machines?
Right? So someone tweeted down later, I'm gonna I fixed it for you, bro.
Yes,
and it's like so it added a whole bunch of levels. So H is like the Coleco Atari. G is like a Nintendo Entertainment System, Sega Genesis, I guess it is. F is the Sega Saturn and the Super Nintendo. E is PlayStation 1, the Dreamcast, and the Nintendo 64. D is GameCube, PlayStation 2, Xbox. C, PlayStation Plus, or PlayStation...
Yeah, Pro.
Is that what it's called? PSP. I know it's called the PSP.
Is it
Plus or Pro?
Not sure, but
I'm not sure.
The
PSP,
portable,
the handheld Sony thing.
Yep.
DS. B is Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Nintendo Wii.
That looks like a Wii. Yeah.
And A is Switch, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. And I'm definitely a G.
You're a G. Original Sega or Sega Genesis? So
it's funny that you say that because neither. I didn't have it. You played Sega, right? I think we've covered this before. And I was definitely I never owned a Sega console at all. I was a Nintendo.
Yes.
And then I went to Super Nintendo. Did you go from Genesis to Saturn?
Actually,
or did you then switch to a Super Nintendo?
There's a machine that's not on H that should be there. It's called the Intellivision.
Yes.
Have you heard of that one, Mike?
Yeah.
Where it had paddles.
Yeah.
And you switched
one of
out
those, eh?
the controller thing.
Yeah.
And basically what game you were playing came with a little, let's call it an overlay, where you put it over your controller, and then you had new controls, basically, and tons of little buttons to be able to push on the Intellivision. That would be the old school one. The first ones that I remember playing are on games that were those, but I didn't own one of those. The first thing I owned was a Sega Genesis, but that was like my early teens, kind of that age.
Did you not own a console in any of these generations?
Except for the oldest one, because we did. I went to friends' house that had those,
Except
the oldest,
one.
the Atari one, that kind of generation. Every other one I've owned, or actually I still own them.
That's interesting. I missed E completely, so I do not have a PlayStation 1.
Oh, yeah,
or a Dreamcast or a Nintendo 64.
Dude.
So I missed that generation entirely.
You did a good job, because I bought the Dreamcast and it was super
expensive.
expensive.
That's like classic.
And it was bad. It was a bad console. Unfortunately, it didn't have very good games.
Didn't last very long.
It didn't last very long. It was hyped up though. I mean, because it came out, but I did have a PlayStation 1 also. That was really, really awesome.
Another trip down memory lane related to this that's gotten me thinking is, what is the first one of these that you spent your own money on?
Probably the first one that I bought was the Sega Genesis. It was with my own money.
So you bought a Sega Genesis
my parents
with your
didn't
own
buy
money?
it. Yeah, I was.
Good for you.
I was out grinding the work since an early age, and
newspapers or washing cars or.
I have had some weird jobs. I worked as a summer as a janitor or a custodian at a elementary school, and I was only like 14 years old. It was a specific program that you could work before like the legal age in the United States to be able to work. And then I did normal fast food jobs once I got a car. I worked at Arby's. I worked as a line cook at Denny's, all kinds of stuff like that. But I remember buying the Genesis, and that was an expensive purchase. It was like
they were all in the
$120, $140 maybe more.
It had to be even more than that.
Maybe more. I can't remember what it was, but it was a lot of money that I had to save up to be able to buy that. But you were so pumped, man. And
done.
And then that controller, I still have some because my kids play like Sonic the Hedgehog and some other games on them. But where they have an A, B, and C button, like laid across the thing, horrible big chunky controllers, But they were cool, back then. How about you? Which one did you spend money on?
The first one I spent with my own money, I think, had to be the PlayStation 2.
Yes.
I bought like the Gran Turismo pack, the bundle that had, I can't remember if it had to be Gran Turismo 2.
Yes. PlayStation 2 is a really, it was a big deal. Yeah.
It's funny actually, and this kind of dates me, or at least tells you how long I've been married. Yeah. But my best man bought me a PSP.
Oh, cool.
As a wedding present.
Man, that's a great best man.
Yeah. Well, we were both gamers, and that was kind of really one of our biggest connections. So, and then I've definitely owned. I have a first gen PlayStation 3 that is sitting right up there above my head that we don't use anymore because it's actually worth money because it's one of the ones that's backwards compatible.
Oh, yeah.
And they took that feature away after a while. They like hot fixed it or whatever. So it's special, and it's got like the old school hard drive in it and stuff. So it's actually rare-ish. It's actually, I should clarify, the reason why it's rare though is because it's one of the ones that you could install Linux on.
Oh,
do you remember that?
Oh,
did you know that you could install the old school PlayStation 3s? You could install Linux on them, and there's actually like some really interesting stories of how like the classic one I think is the U.S. Air Force.
Yeah,
bought like 80 PlayStation 3s and like linked them all together in a network. Okay. And ran Linux on them and used it as like a server, like as a mainframe sort of thing. It's true because it was like an inexpensive computing source.
Yes, system.
This is legit. I'm not joking you.
I believe you. I believe you. You know about this.
Can go look it up, listeners. You'll see. It's true. But bizarre. So I have an old school PlayStation 3. It's kept safe, and it's I know it's
you're gonna pass it down to the kids.
Yes. Yeah. So and then we actually have multiple PlayStation 3s, and I think I have a PlayStation 4. Actually, the one thing that we have a lot of now are Switches. We actually have more than one Switch. I think we actually have 2 of the real Switches and a Switch Lite because we don't share them well in this house.
Stay off my Switch.
With the 2 boys in particular,
of course.
And then the big boy here.
The big boy.
The sharing. Well, because Daddy was taking the Switch
on trips, on business trips. Yep, I remember to China.
I was like the criminal of the family because I was taking the Switch for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah,
or a week or
Poor
whatever.
kids.
And it's like, Dad, don't you dare take the Switch to China or I'll kill you. So I didn't.
So you were like, okay.
No, that's actually when I bought the Switch Lite. I bought the Switch Lite.
I guess I'll...
because I was getting threatened.
That's
pretty
it.
legit.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what the listeners, if they're super gamers like us and where they started. I just felt like it aged us really quick because, of course, it was a millennial that posted that. And the old school one was like, dude, that was like in my late 20s.
Do you have any of the new classic consoles, like the NES Classic or the Super Nintendo Classic, the new ones that they've released in the last couple of years?
Yeah. The ones that they've remade? I don't actually own those. I own some original systems. So I have original Nintendo, and then we have an original Sega that actually was Nicole's. She actually had an original Sega, which I didn't have.
Nice.
We have a Genesis and some other... the original Xbox, the big clunk, the one that they show in the picture, the giant monstrosity one, the original Xbox.
Sure.
And then, of course, 360, etc., whatever it might be. But, it's pretty cool to look at those and go, huh, that was a lot of time, great times.
Yeah, yeah. And some of it doesn't age as well as we think it does. It's in some cases it's better in your memory.
Yes.
It's like when you go back to play World of Warcraft, it's exactly the same as that. World of Warcraft was better in 2006 in your mind than it is playing WoW Classic is actually really not that fun.
It's not that
good. Hashtag hot take.
Okay.
WoW Classic remains classic because it's in my memory that way.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Totally. So it's funny. I'm going to make you talk about this one because the modest teacher is back in your zeitgeist.
Yes.
I
like the modest teacher now.
Yeah.
I'm taking him a lot lighter on some of his stuff, some of his hot takes. But this one was interesting. And I actually related to something that I talked about this week with several people, including you guys, as far as in our DM chats. But basically, he writes, the hybrid system is better than nothing, and nothing is what the kids are learning. And so I responded to him, and I'm like, you really don't mean that. And he's like, yeah, it was a hyperbole, but it's really difficult. And my take was that I have this feeling, it's not just at my school district, and I'm kind of getting that sense throughout the nation, all these different posts, that with how difficult it is to do that, to do the hybrid teaching, basically models that you have to teach synchronously kids that are in front of you and kids that are online. So that's the model I'm describing as far as hybrid. That I think teachers are going to be like ready to take, let's call it the plunge, the risk, and just say, let's just do it face to face. And I've already heard that, not only locally, at my own district, my own school, but I've heard that a lot as far as people saying that and whatever it might be. It's almost like that thing, Mike, this summer where people were crazy to me. I know, where people were like, you know what, I'm tired of not being able to go to restaurants and hang out with people and whatever it might be. Basically, I'm tired of this thing. So my solution is to just go do it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like so crazy. It's like, I'd just rather take the risk. I want to go to work. I want to go do these things. And whatever comes is whatever comes. It's like, but this is just
a hard time wrapping my head around how people don't understand that this is by the end of this year, 250,000 Americans will be dead.
Oh yeah,
from coronavirus.
We're almost at 200,000. Yes, it's insane.
It's a real thing, and just because you haven't gotten it doesn't make it less of a real thing. And what is worth your life? Like, seriously, even your job. I mean, sorry, but teaching might be like a career and your passion and what you really love to do and what you believe in and all that stuff. But is it worth risking your life?
Yeah.
Just because you can't do it exactly the way you want to do it?
And that's the thing. And I also see it again, it is hyperbole in a way, but I also have the feeling that in a way, if the decisions were made to do that, people wouldn't complain. Do you know what I mean? Whereas at the beginning, before this all began, and there were schools that were going to basically go face to face right from the beginning, we were all kind of going like, what are you doing? You know, we were questioning that and going like, this is insane. You can't do this, blah, blah, blah. Where now I feel like people are like, are taking the tone of, well, at least we'll get to do what we know how to do and we know it's effective, etc. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's just, yeah. And the other part of that I'm thinking of,
I just don't think people are sufficiently scared. Seriously.
Oh, totally.
Someone said that. Someone said something on a stupid social media thing. Said, you know, I'm an American and I'm not afraid of anything. And I was like, are you an idiot? The reason why you're in this mess is because you are not sufficiently afraid.
No.
I am absolutely, me personally, and this is like, I'm having a bad couple of weeks here right now.
Yeah.
But I am absolutely convinced that if I get this, I will die. Like, I mean, that's me personally.
Sure.
And I'm telling you that living in that sort of fear it sucks and it's not fun and I'm not comfortable doing it, but it might be keeping me safe because I ain't going anywhere. And I'm certainly not going anywhere without a mask.
Yeah.
And I'm still, the only places I'm going is to get my damn groceries.
And don't you think too, Mike, that if this was more like a plague-like of thing, like this is what I'm describing, like in other words, we could see it more. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like this silent killer. So in other words, if
they go from their home to the hospital on a ventilator and then they die.
If it marred you, in other words, it gave you boils. If it gave you, you know, whatever kind of thing, like some kind of
that's
something
gruesome to think about. But I know what you're saying.
But if it gave you something like where you were, like you could see the physical effects
where you
on
had
someone
a more
right
visceral
away,
reaction to it.
Yeah, and you could see that right off the bat. And you were like, I don't want to get, I think people might then go, oh gosh, I don't want, this is crazy. This is not, you know, the flu. This is something else. But without that, it seems like people are willing to go ahead and go, yeah, you know, I'm pretty healthy. I do what I'm supposed to do. Even if I get it, I'm going to be okay. It's like, but you don't
you are not sufficiently afraid.
Yeah, you really don't know, and it's sad. And the other part of this whole entire thing is the part of taking the risk is how long we'll extend this. You know what I mean? Once if we're not safe and we don't do the things that we need to be doing to basically, you know, flatten the curve, or like you guys did in Canada, where you had days here recently where nobody got sick. It's like, if you want those days, you got to do some work. You got to do some things.
Yeah, we're starting to have days with no deaths in Canada.
Yes. And if
we
want that,
we're still on a bit of an upswing in Ontario, related to like people coming down with it.
Yeah.
But we were expecting that a little bit, especially with school starting.
Sure.
And school is mostly in person in Ontario, so I think we can expect that. But
no
all
deaths,
in all,
though,
it's
in your whole country.
I don't even know what to say to you guys down there, though.
Yeah, it's a super tough situation. I think it's just one of those things that each week, you know, we're gonna, you know, there was a headline I think earlier in the week of a teacher, I believe it was in South Carolina, that passed away. You know, and it was just like
we called it. It was going to happen.
Yeah, we talked about that was going to happen, and that it's going to be kind of a thing that just is that we're going to see. You know, that's going to just be, I don't want to say the norm, but it's just going to be one of those things that's going to happen. And how long do we want to extend that? And that's the part where I'm just like, if we do the work now up front, we can at least, like they call it, flatten the curve and get back to some sort of normalcy. But without doing that, you know, it's God knows when it's going to be. 2022. I mean, it's going to be a while, so it sucks. I just don't know what to tell people. It's going to be tough to change people's minds.
Our friend Natasha posted a tweet, and I think this was today.
Yes, it was.
This is like hot off the press, actually.
Yes.
This was like 2 hours ago. What's the most ridiculous educational buzzword of 2020? And then an hour ago, or just after that, she wrote, phrases are also appropriate.
Yes.
And so I've weighed in recently.
Nice.
Because I couldn't think of a word. I was trying to think of a word, and hybrid is pretty high up on my list of words that I'm kind of done with. But it's funny because when she said phrases, I instantly thought of, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Can you see my screen is the worst.
Yes.
Yes.
We
can see your screen. Yeah.
Oh my
yeah, we're
God.
there. Move on, please. It's the worst. I'm done with can you see my screen? What's your, did you think of anything?
Yeah. I put unprecedented, but I saw that actually Dave, part of our team, actually wrote that exact word. And I'm like, I didn't see his earlier, but I was just like, I said that today, and I was like, I shouldn't have said that. I was like, but I couldn't come up with a better word. I need to come up with a bigger vocab. But I saw some great things on here. Instead of distance learning, I saw Jeff Plumman, who works at the Department of Education here. Distant learning was a fantastic take. I was like, I've heard that too. Oh my God. There was just so many things on here.
It's a funny word.
Yes.
It's funny how I was talking to someone the other day, and also on this list, and you've weighed in on this one, is that no one ever like talked about synchronous and asynchronous learning before. Like, we used other words to kind of talk about stuff like that, like educational words, but now like everyone knows what synchronous and asynchronous learning is now. Which is so good. Diana Myers-McGee also on our team with uncertain. There's actually a really good TikTok where it's a sales guy talking about like how his sales calls are going on the phone, and he's like leaving messages, and every time he leaves a message, he's like, and I realize in these uncertain times, you never know. And like, and he says the word uncertain times,
so
and like
times.
every one of them, he fits it into every phrase, and it's so funny.
Another favorite, Dr. Will, Bitmoji, baby. Yes.
Solid. So this is pretty entertaining.
Hopefully
love it. This one goes for a while. It's going well right now, and we'll put it in our show notes, and you can weigh in as much as you want here, because I think there's some words we're definitely done with, and phrases we're done with, like can you see my screen, or your mic is muted.
Yes, your mic is muted. Oh, yes.
Or you have to unmute, some variation of you
Please
have to unmute your mic
or
we can't hear you. Which is funny because we had technical issues
we just
talking
had that
to
today.
Becky, and totally just had that happen. So this list has come out for the, I don't know how many years they've been doing it, but the 30 K-12 IT EdTech influencers you should follow.
Yes.
One of the cool things about this list, and we've been on this list a couple times this year, there are a lot of new faces, which is really great. A lot more diversity in
Big
this
time.
list, I think, than in previous years, which I noticed right away. And a lot of our friends are on this list. And a lot of folks that have been on the podcast, over half of them have been guests.
Yes.
So congratulations to all of those folks: Sarah Thomas, Vernon Wright, Ken Shelton, Adam File, Desiree Alexander, and our boy Andrew.
Yes, Andrew Revelo on there. Not only is he running for a school board seat, and he's an educator, and he gets this 30 K through 12 IT influencer. Super happy for him. And what was awesome about that list, Mike, is as I was showing my wife Nicole the list itself, I was just like, what's amazing is we've brought these voices to our audience. There's so many people, and the people that we haven't, we're going to go reaching out to them and making sure that we do get them on the pod because we want their voices, but their voices, their ideas, just the amazing things that they have done, and the diversity of this group is just super awesome and fantastic. And I can't say enough. Great job by, I think it's the EdTech Digest who puts this list out. Mm-hmm. And I think each year, what's funny about this that I think is funny is that in previous years, it could be like the 50. Sometimes it's 20, depending upon they move the number around a little bit.
How much coffee the author had.
Yeah, depending upon
when they have to put it together.
Who they decide to go ahead and go with and whatever it might be. But super fantastic. And congratulations to all of you guys. You not only deserve it, but we're happy to go ahead and make sure to bring your voices to our audience and to many audiences out there. And we want you back on the show to continue to go ahead and not only let us know how it's going, but to let us know, like, okay, what's the next steps in education and how can we get better, in everything, not just in, distance learning, hybrid teaching, whatever it might be, but also in just equity itself too. And how do we become better people, better educators? And a lot of these guests, not a lot of them, but these guests have done so much for our show and many of course, for all of these students too, throughout the United States and in Canada, North America, let's call it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So congratulations to our friends. Well done. When we come back, we're going to speak to another one of our friends, Becky Keene. So stay with us. All right, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Becky Keene is the Director of Content and Professional Learning for Insight to Execution, a Minecraft Global Training Partner.
Hey.
She's also the Director of Amazing Things with games-based learning startup Phygital Labs. Recently, Becky and Kathi Kersznowski teamed up to write Sail the Seven Seas with Microsoft Education, and she joins us now. Welcome to OnEducation, Becky Keene.
Hello, thanks for inviting me. How fun.
Excited to have you. Thanks for joining us. Becky, if you could just take a few minutes. I did kind of the Coles Notes 101 on Becky Keene. Could you give us a little bit more detail about yourself, about what you do, and what's brought you to us today?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm an educator. That's the easiest answer, right? I've been in public education for 20 years, and I have taught age 8 through 14. And then I moved into kind of a tech coach role. My school system was going one-to-one. So in 2005, I helped launch a pilot program that actually made national news in the fact that we were kind of the first of its kind in the U.S. Australia was way ahead of us, but participated in that and then helped scale that initiative to our 30,000 students over the next decade, which has been an amazing opportunity. I've been involved with the Microsoft Education community, which I know you're both, familiar with, for a long time. And so it was kind of a natural next step to start doing some training around the U.S. And now with my work, I actually have an updated title for you, Mike, Director of Operations now.
Awesome.
Whoa, giddy up.
I know. Hot off the presses. So for I2E, which is one of the Microsoft partners, and really we're an education consultancy company. So we provide strategy and planning and delivery for professional learning and strategic initiatives all over the U.S., which is super fun and exciting. And I feel like I get to impact, more than the kids in my own classroom now. I've grown as a professional into a different type of impact, which is just different and super fun and really engaging. And then we also have this nonprofit affiliate, Phygital Labs, and I've been just honored to be invited to be a part of that community where we get to create game-based learning resources, extended reality resources, that kind of immersive experience in education that's leading edge right now. Not for some, but for, mainstream education, it's still kind of out there. So that's esports, those types of things. And that's been really where I've grown as a professional in my journey, too. So that's been really fun. And then, yes, you mentioned the book. Kathi and I wrote a book about educators, and we could dig more into that, but that's been a really amazing experience, a bucket list item for me to publish a book for sure. So it's just been kind of a wild ride the last 5 years for sure.
Absolutely. So let's first talk about Mike and I's favorite topic. If anybody, all the listeners of the podcast know that we mention this video game, this game specifically, almost every podcast, either because we're playing it or because we're talking about it or because the use in education, we're talking about Minecraft. And there's a two-part question. What got you into using Minecraft as an educational tool? And then when did you realize, Becky, that Minecraft would be a tool for teaching and learning, or that you would know that it was the tool for teaching and learning that it actually is now?
Ooh, okay. So I was first introduced to Minecraft in education, ISTE, Philadelphia, 2015. Stephen Reed was leading a workshop. That's the first time I ever saw him present. Awesome. And I kind of it was packed. There were lines down and around the hallways all day. And don't tell, but someone kind of snuck me in the back. So I could just sit on the counter in the back of the room and just listen, because I couldn't get in. And I kind of got a nice little hookup there. And so that's when I first started hearing about it. And then I had a couple conversations with some other just amazing educators. Shane Asselstein was integral. I heard him speak at a conference, and he was the first person that I really heard delineate, this is what Minecraft does in a classroom, and here is the standard it aligns to. And that was the next year at another conference. And that was just mind-blowing to me, because I don't self-identify as a gamer. I didn't grow up playing a lot of video games. I love games, right? We all love to play. It's just not a world that I had spent a lot of time in. And so hearing that standards alignment spoke to my little educator heart, and I realized, oh, this can be used not only really, really creatively and with, project-based learning and problem-based learning and to teach empathy and SEL and all these things, but it's also going to help me meet my standards. And that won me over. So that was about 4 years ago. And I started digging a little deeper, attending, the Minecraft workshops that I could get my hands on. And then, I have children at my house, and started doing some Minecraft with them. Then a couple of years ago, took it a step further and started hosting, like, neighborhood kids would swing by and I'd dole out Surface devices and they'd sit and play in my living room. And listening to them communicate and collaborate, which I know are these like cliche words in education, but I listened to it happen in my family room. I listened to kids planning and talking and encouraging and joking and having this wonderful experience that they really can't get any other way. And that was so exciting to me, to hear that firsthand, and hearing them talk about vocabulary, the in-game inventory, and talking to each other about what is this and what does it do, and go look that up on Wikipedia. And they're like, and they're learning. So a couple of things kind of just tipped the scales for me. Seeing it happen was obviously a huge part of that. And then I have gotten to be a part of Phygital Labs since it began. It's over 2 years old now. And being able to really dig into what does it take to build great content that teachers could use anywhere in the world to teach certain things has been an amazing opportunity. I think I answered both parts.
I think you nailed it. You're good.
Like when they say, well, the other thing I will add that I've had just the honor to do, again, because I have 2 children who are still young. Right now, they're 10 and 12. And so I was able to volunteer at one of my children's schools and lead a Minecraft club. So not this last school year, but the one previous, I was there every week for months leading a Minecraft club with a group of kids. I would go every Monday, right? You have to do Minecraft clubs on Mondays because of the alliteration. But we went in every Monday, and so I got to actually work with ages 9 through probably 8 through 11 every week for months, which was also an amazing experience for someone who's not regularly in a classroom anymore. To have that grounding of this is really what it looks like to have kids working and playing and learning together in the game. And I think that's really important.
So, Becky, I was wondering, whenever I speak about Minecraft or introduce it to any teachers as an instructional coach, or I'm at a conference or whatever it might be, I can sense that there's this hesitation from the teacher end, like this fear. I always want to call it a fear. Even knowing how to go ahead and just step into it, how to even get started. And you give them all of these different ideas about you could do this or this. And it's almost like super overwhelming, kind of thing. Right. Where you were speaking about kind of having a place to begin. Do you know what I mean? Like a place where you can step in and they have this world already kind of ready to go, and then you can customize it to fit those things. Is that what you guys were imagining when you started? I mean, when you guys are working on these things, I'm sure you have teachers that you have in mind that are not gamers like me and Mike, where we're like, oh yeah, we already kind of know what we want to go ahead and do, and we're not afraid, basically. But more like these people that are wanting to take a dive into it, but aren't even sure exactly, where to start, and kind of need a lead in, kind of need a sample world, and need something to go ahead and kind of kick it off. Is that something that's, I mean, as you guys are sitting there, you're creating those worlds.
So you're asking me a 2-part question, whether you knew it or not. The first thing that I have to stop and say is that the reason you and Mike, for example, don't have any trouble diving in is because you have motivation. So we all have that in different areas of our lives. For example, I was highly motivated to learn how to use a electric pressure cooker, the Instant Pot, brand, a couple of years ago, because I was like, this will save me time making my family healthy meals. If you have no motivation to do that, you don't care about learning how to use the new kitchen appliance, right?
Yes.
So I relate that to teachers a lot, because all teachers learn how to do new things all the time. It's because they have selected that new skill or a new way they're going to deliver content in their classroom because they're motivated, because they see purpose and value and it's interesting to them. So I want to call that out, because usually when I do a lot of, speaking and professional development opportunities and speaking with system leaders, and usually their teachers are already learning lots of other stuff. And they're like, oh, our teachers, they're just really overwhelmed right now. And I say, that's funny, because they're learning, how to download stuff off maybe Teachers Pay Teachers and upload that to their Google Classroom and have people print it out and then take a picture and then email it back. Like, they're learning things that are motivating to them. So the first part of your not two-part question is, teachers have to have a motivation, and that comes with having a reason and a purpose that has value to them personally. So we have to start with that, right? And that's different for everyone. So to segue you back into what you really asked, which was, is that what we were trying to do with Phygital Labs? Yes. So we chose different lessons when we started with the Phygital Labs content based on needs that we knew specifically existed, that we could fill with Minecraft that didn't already have a space. So I'll give you an example. Here, I live in Washington State, and in Washington, like every other state, we teach our state history content. And generally, teachers have minimal resources to do that, and it's not a super interesting topic to a lot of people. It happens to be to me because I taught it and loved it. But
yes,
we started with a unit that we knew the Washington State History Museum here would love, that teachers would immediately see value in, because they're already having to teach this unit and they don't like the way they do it. So finding that solution point is really important. So teachers were able to see, oh my word, I already teach these 6 things, but I didn't have a good way to do that. And now I can put my kids in this Minecraft world and they'll learn all of the standards I was supposed to teach them already. And it can be mainly student driven. So that's the other piece is in the world of Minecraft, we have this pendulum, right, of teachers like the Ben Kellys of the world who are making these, massive, amazing worlds and projects. And that's so overwhelming to so many. So many,
yes.
Right. We have the kids who are doing amazing things on their own because their teacher has allowed that to happen.
Yes.
Right? The Steve Isaacs kids who are making these Rube Goldberg projects that are off the hook. And then you have teachers who are like, I can't ever get there. And so for them to have an entry point that is really simple and straightforward, but also doesn't require them to have a lot of skill at the start, is really important, because everybody starts somewhere. Yes. And, right, we open a Word doc and it's blank. And that's like opening a blank Minecraft world, and that's really scary. And we don't give teachers curriculum that's blank Word documents and say, fill this in, go teach math. Like, we give them content. So it's really important to us to give them a world to start with, and then they can go from there.
I like that. That's a cool analogy right there. So the book. Let's talk about the book. So I was so excited to get a copy of the book just a couple weeks ago, and honored to have lent an endorsement to it inside, which was super exciting. It's a great book, and what I love the most about it is that it's centered around 21st century skills. It's not, hey, let me show you these Microsoft tools and how great they are and how you use them. We got enough of that nonsense, from just about anybody right now. We don't need more of that necessarily, I think. And you actually articulated that a little bit when you were talking about Minecraft, about not needing necessarily to learn how to use the game, but learning how it applies to my teaching. And you've done that with this book. You didn't just focus on the tools. You focused on how it applies to 21st century skills, the 7 C's.
Yeah. Did you know there were 7?
Maybe. But I couldn't have told you them all off the top of my head. But I want to know a little bit more about the book. Tell our listeners about the book in general, and how you settled on. I love talking to writers about their process and about the choices that they make in terms of actually writing a book, and how you settled on this as kind of like the framework for writing the book.
Well, that is easy to answer because it was so. I don't use this word very often, but it was a little bit magical. So I had actually been approached to be a part of a different writing team, and it, for lots of reasons, didn't work out. And then someone came to me and said, hey, what if you just wrote this with one other person, and what if you just did a book? And I immediately thought of Kathi, who I actually didn't know super well at the time, but I knew her some. We'd met and everything, and I just felt like she would be such a great. It wasn't, quote, my project. We were like, who would I want to do this with if I could pick anyone? And I was like, I just feel like Kathi would be such a great person to work with. So what was amazing is when Kathi and I got back together about a month later and met with Shelley Burgess to talk over, what our thoughts were, Kathi and I hadn't had a chance to brainstorm together at all. And yet we came to this discovery call with almost the exact same idea. Which is totally magical and mind-blowing and wonderful. We both wanted to kind of frame the book out around the C's. We didn't have 7 at the time. We just were like, we really like the C's. And we both wanted to highlight not only our experiences, but the experiences of other educators around the world, because I have learned the most and been the most humbled and amazed when I've been able to connect with teachers, in the other 5 continents. And so we really wanted that voice. And neither of us wanted it to be a how-to book. There's room for how-to books with screenshots and click here, do this, go here, do this. That's wonderful, and that's a niche for a lot of people. But that's
done
not
with it,
where,
Becky. I'm done with it.
That's not where we wanted to be. Yeah.
No.
We wanted to give inspiration. We wanted something that would be evergreen and not outdated. Yep. The second Microsoft updates, which is all the time. And so we were really excited about that. And it's been so amazing. Like, I can't even explain the feeling when somebody, tweets to me or to us or sends a DM or whatever. And they're like, I loved this idea. Thank you for capturing and sharing it. I'm going to do it with my students. Or the little pictures of like Post-it notes. It's just so amazing to me that other people would be motivated, encouraged, and inspired by what we've put together. And that's it's just the best feeling. So yeah, that was our goal, really, is to inspire.
It's awesome. So I really do I even love almost every product that Microsoft gears towards education. Obviously, Minecraft.
That's a heavy endorsement, Mike.
Definitely Flipgrid. I mean, these are great products, and they're super powerful, and probably the two, in particular, Minecraft and Flipgrid, the 2 best products for teaching and learning in their categories, but beyond a shadow of a doubt. But
whoa. You're not overshadowing OneNote. My heart. What are you doing?
Just give me a minute here.
Okay, I was like, what is happening? Okay.
But there is one Microsoft product that I loathe.
Oh no!
And I'm notorious on the podcast for shading it all the time. So, you are an expert, and so you are here now, and you're going to make the case for Teams, because I hate Microsoft Teams. I've never had a good experience on it, but obviously,
never is such a strong word.
Never. I know,
Well, I'll tell you the same thing I've told.
Case.
Okay, to so many people. If you don't like it, I wasn't your trainer. Like, that's easy. First of all,
that's a power move right there. That's actually something I would say too.
I have said that in a crowded room before. Well, you didn't come to me. You would have loved it. So sure. I have to bounce back at you. What is it you don't like? Is it UI? Is it you love Discord? Because I can't answer that without knowing your pain point.
Oh, here we go. I mean, I've never had good service, in terms of the connections, the audio quality, video quality, when other services have been virtually perfect. Almost every other service I've used I've never once had a problem with even Zoom, which everyone is hating on sometimes right now. I mean, but I'll do a Teams call and a Zoom call in the same day. So I know it's not me. I have a top of the line computer and a massively overpowered network. I mean, it's generally not me. So there's been that, and then it's just I've had connection issues, I've had communication issues. I've never felt like I could collaborate and communicate with people on it in the ways that I would have wanted. Certainly, switching profile, there's just a laundry list of things. And again, maybe it's just that I haven't been doing them right. And I'm totally open to that being the possibility.
Well, okay, so I have to tell you, just like anything, it's about workflow, comfortability, right? So I am very comfortable getting an I am on Teams in one profile and then a notification that I'm, have one in another profile. That doesn't throw me. There's a lot of people that that's their core irritation. I can't stand that I have this stuff over here. Or there's a lot of people that that like things segmented, right? Like I'm going to join this Zoom call and I'm going to take notes over here in my Word document or my OneNote or my Google Keep or wherever. And then I'm going to go, like, there's people that's their comfort zone. I like Teams for what I do. I can honestly tell you that it's reduced my workload because the things that I need to get to are all in one place. Whether it's a chat with my internal team at I2E, which we use Teams all day, every day. It's all we use. Or, one of my content writers has uploaded a file and I'm on my phone and they're asking for feedback. I can do literally everything I need to do from either the Windows desktop app, the web browser, or I have an iPhone or from my phone, from the Teams app. And having that one landing place where everything lives, communication, calendar, files, notes, threads, everything in one spot that then links me out is just absolute efficiency for me. I don't like having to like, oh no, this is on a different app and I have to go find, the login and care about what browser I'm in and all of that. And I like the way it workflows. Now, I've been using Teams regularly for 3 years, right? So I led the first Teams training for education in the U.S.
Yeah.
And so
I use it when I'm forced to.
Right.
And that's a huge experience gap,
yeah,
for sure.
Well, and there's a lot to be said about comfortability, where when I am on a Zoom call, because that's what I've been invited to, I'll tell you, I feel so lost. I'm like, I even said to my son the other day, why is it taking over my entire screen? This drives me crazy. And he's like, yeah, okay, you gotta like pop it out and then set here. And I was like, I don't understand why it does. I hate that, So that's because that's not what I'm comfortable with. I'm comfortable with this Teams wrap that leaves open and pervasive chat. I'm sorry, but that alone should, like, we were in a Zoom call and someone was like, yeah, I'll post that to the chat. I was like, great. A week later, I'm like, oh, where's that resource? Oh, that was on a call. So I did a search in Teams thinking it was going to come up. And it took me a solid 5 minutes of digging. And finally I was like, that's on a Zoom call. It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
I have no idea where that resource went.
I actually ran into that just the other day with Zoom. No. I realized how much I hate that too. Yeah, so that's hard for me. You might have got me right there, maybe. That's
persistent chat is.
Yeah,
it's pretty nice. And honestly, I just started doing this in Teams, so I have the chats that I'm in all the time with my team, all pinned, and it's just so easy and fast to communicate with the people you work with all the time. And so the other tip and trick that I will tell you is that I have, I have Teams desktop that I live in all day, Teams on my phone that on mobile, it's super easy to switch back and forth between profiles. That's where they've totally landed that is in mobile. I don't know why we can't land it elsewhere, but I'll tell you it's beautiful in mobile. And then I use in Edge Chromium, you can install Teams as an app. Because I'm actually in 2 profiles a lot, the Microsoft tenant and my tenant and so on. And so I have 2 running all the time. So when you're on a PC, you have that flexibility of being in lots of tenants at once. And I think people sometimes get hung up on, I can only launch this one window, when in reality you can run several, just like you would have tabs in your browser. Right? Same idea. We're all comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I say more than one instance of Teams, people are like, whoa, that's too much. No, it's not.
It's a bridge too far, Becky Keene.
Right?
A bridge too far.
You can do that. So some of it is comfort. Some of it is flexibility. Some of it is they're behind on breakout rooms. That's huge in education.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's rolling out now. But if I was going to tell you why to use Teams, I would say It is your one landing place for everything, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's like anything. You're not like, oh, magic fairy dust, I opened Teams, and now everything is here. It's beautiful. Like, it takes time, and it also takes organizational alignment.
Sure.
Where, right? Like, my whole team at I2E is totally like, we're in on Teams, and that makes life really easy. But if we have a couple team members who are still like, I'm going to email you this attachment, like, it ruins all the benefits. I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, you just cost me 5 minutes of save attachment, upload it back to a shared space so we can collaborate.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Becky, where can people connect with you online? Where can they go to buy the book? And how can they reach out to you if they have more questions about Microsoft Teams?
Okay. Or, any of the other things I talk about. Like, at best practices in education, but whatever. I would be happy to be your Teams trainer. And you can find me at BeckyKeene.com. Is really a good landing page. It has about my professional book club that I do with Mike Lawrence. It Hooked Book Club. It talks about the book we wrote. It's got a link there to my newsletter. It has both companies I work for, what I speak on and love. Some of my credentials. Sometimes people want to hear, like, are you really qualified to talk to people about education? So all that is there, BeckyKeene.com.
All that is there.
All my social, I love to connect on Twitter, especially. It's my favorite one for connections.
Fantastic.
So yeah, all of that is there.
Awesome.
Very
Becky
easy.
Keene. Becky Keene, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks for always using my last name.
Thanks for listening to OnEducation. My name is Glenn Irvin. My co-host is Mike Washburn. OnEducation is part of the On Podcast Media Network. You can listen to this show and many others by great educators like Monica Burns, Mike Matera, Tisha Richmond, and many more by visiting onpodcastmedia.com. Want to get in touch with us? Check out our website, oneducationpodcast.com. You can tweet us at OnEducationPod. Mike is at Mr. Washburn on Twitter, and I can be found on Twitter at IrvSpanish. You can find us on Facebook by visiting facebook.com/OnEducationPod. We're also on Instagram at OnEducationPod. If you're enjoying the show and think others would too, we would be thrilled if you shared it with them. Please leave us a rating or review in Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. When you leave a rating, it gives our rankings a boost. This helps others discover the show. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Participate, for supporting us. Check out participate.com to learn more about them. Thanks as always for listening. Stay awesome and see you soon.